Welcome to Waywut, your weekly verbal double take. This is a rabbit hole podcast where a couple of old guys do moderate to shallow dives into various topics, ranging from true crime, paranormal, sports, pop culture, or anything else that we find interesting. We drop episodes every Tuesday, and then on Fridays if we feel like it. You can follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, and Instagram. We appreciate you joining us. Now that we got all this self-promotion stuff out of the way, here we go. Hello, welcome once again to another episode of Waywut. My name is Darrell, and I will be taking the reins today. And here I am with the sole resident of the country called Jastonia, the country of his own creation that has legalized weed, women can't vote, and not delivering his mail gets you life in prison. Jason.
Absolutely just punishment. That's a just punishment.
Oh, I can't believe you're such a misogynist, though.
I want women to vote.
As long as they do what you say. Vote how I tell you to. Yeah. Vote to get me a sandwich.
I like sandwiches.
Well, I'm going to start today with a youthful dream rant.
All right.
I was an imaginative child. Part of having a super active imagination is constantly daydreaming about your future. I had so many ambitions. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. I'm sure you remember that. I wanted to be a pro baseball player because every boy does.
Yep.
I wanted to be a primatologist because I had a really cool interaction with a gorilla once. Well, actually twice. But no, it was once with a gorilla, once with a chimp. But I wanted to study apes.
I thought you were going to say something else.
No, it wasn't dirty. It was super sweet. It sat next to me. That was awesome. Anyway. I wanted to be an FBI agent. We both wanted to do that one together. I wanted to be a writer. I decided to try to write a novel in high school, and whenever I go back and look at it, it looks like every bad movie you ever wrote. It's like, everybody hates me, and I'm so awesome. You know, that sort of thing. I wanted to be a screenwriter and a filmmaker. Now, this is the one that I got the closest to, I guess. I did make a couple of short films, but in the end, that dream also got tossed to the side. For the most part, when it comes to career, I missed all the targets I set as a kid. Now I'm your typical office drone. I don't change the world or broker $1 million deals. I just go to an office, do my part in keeping the company functional, and then go home.
Yep. Ain't it great?
I'm content. I'm not going to sit here and blame the world that I didn't achieve any of those dreams that I listed because I know that falls on me. It is no secret on here that I am lazy.
No, you mentioned it many, many times.
Exactly. I enjoyed making movies a lot.
Yeah,
but it is a ton of work.
Oh, yeah. Just for those movies that were 5-6 minutes long, it took all day to do.
Well, that was just the part that you were in.
Oh, yeah.
I had to do all the editing, sound design, all sorts of stuff.
Very true. Very true.
Whenever I get home from work, I don't want to, edit and put together music and try to figure out how to wrangle enough people together to have them act out my little idea for pretty much an entire day or two for a short film, let alone the months or years needed to make a feature-length film. I don't have it in me. Most of the people we see with those dream jobs are not lazy. They write every day, regardless of whatever their regular day job is. They work out and train every day, regardless of whether or if there's something more fun to do. And that was the one that would always get me. I can always think of something else that I could have more fun doing than whatever feels like work.
Yeah.
So this rant isn't against some system keeping me down or anything like that. This rant is me bitching at myself for never having the drive to match my imagination.
You still got time, Darrell.
Now, that being said, for anyone in my boat, don't take it out on your kids and try to achieve your dreams through them. Just accommodate and assist them in chasing their dreams. My daughter is training hard to be a firefighter, and I will do whatever she needs from me to help her achieve that And if she ever truly wants to stop chasing that dream, then I'll just start assisting her with chasing the next one.
What are you doing? You setting small fires or something for her to come put out?
No, I make sure she needs to get where she goes, and I listen to her stories and do whatever it is she needs.
Putting cats up in the trees.
No,
get some of that practice.
I mainly listen and take her places. I mean, she doesn't drive anymore.
No, firefighters are just tough. It's a tough job.
Yeah, no, she's going to be badass at it.
I remember taking the test for it. It was tough.
I will never be an obstacle for her drive. As my son gets older and starts figuring out what he wants, then I'll do the same thing for him. As for me, I have this podcast now. It isn't much, but I have fun with it. And I think young Darrell would, I think young Darrell and Jason would dig this.
Absolutely.
I mean, essentially, it's not exactly like the fake radio show we did in speech class.
No, the same chemistry.
But it ain't too far from it.
Yeah. Minus the gay stuff.
Yeah, well, no, we got more gay stuff in this than that one did.
That's probably true. And we couldn't say too much in a high school classroom.
Yeah. Well, speaking of achieving the dreams of our youth, there was one of my dreams that I left out that I'm sure Jason remembers. In middle school, 6th grade middle school, one of my biggest dreams was world domination. Do you remember that?
Keep going.
Basically, I wanted to take over the world. I told you could have Australia. That's one that I'm okay not achieving because I think ruling the world would be a whole lot of work.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I think just running your own country would be a lot of work. But there are some people that would disagree with me. Some people will do whatever it takes to rule a nation, even start their own. Let's look at a fellow that did just that.
All right.
Yeah, great segue there, huh?
Very butter smooth.
Yeah. Moses Olitsky was born in Lithuania in 1928. During World War II, his parents and 4 siblings were killed by the Germans when they were murdering Jews in Lithuania, because that's what they were into at the time.
Uh-huh.
Moses was rescued by U.S. troops while the German army was marching him and other surviving Jews to Dachau. After the war, he immigrated to the United States, where he changed his name to Michael Oliver, which is a pretty solid name, and he settled down in Carson City, Nevada. Throughout the 60s, he grew to be very wealthy thanks to his land development company as well as a coin exchange company. He opened 2 companies. And it's like, hell yeah, dude's badass. As riots and protests related to the civil rights movement increased and the anti-war movement, protests in Vietnam was like just getting started, he started trying to figure out a way to escape what he felt was the inevitable totalitarian government that was going to take over the U.S. Because that's what he figured was going to happen. I would like to point out that this guy, who has seen humanity at its worst, was not concerned about the system so many people were protesting and fighting against at the time. He went the other way, and he sided with the establishment, and he was pretty far right wing. He was worried that all these hippies and stuff are going to take over, make everything communist, and make this totalitarian regime. So this fella, he went to the right, and he became a libertarian. Michael Oliver also did not see the U.S. government as something that could be fixed without revolution.
Okay.
And he did not want to deal with that.
Okay.
He decided instead to figure out a way to start his own country.
Oh, okay. I'm going to start my own damn game.
Exactly. In 1968, he self-published a book called A New Constitution for a New Country. The book sold out, and he had to publish a second edition the same year. So he sold his entire stock in 1968, and then he had to put out a whole second edition because people were, grabbing it up. In the book, he wrote a new constitution that uses more defined terms, and even contains a glossary would be better than the ambiguity of our current U.S. Constitution, because all that ambiguity has caused a lot of problems, where people arguing things in the Supreme Court and so on and so forth. Where technically that ambiguity is what's made it such a long-lasting document, is because people in 1700s were not going to be able to foresee the problems of the 21st century.
No, that's today's problems that people are creating themselves.
Right. So leaving some things ambiguous and allowing it to be amended and stuff like that was the whole purpose. But Michael Oliver disagreed. Being a libertarian, his constitution also severely limited the functions of government. He believed the government's job is to protect its citizens from force and fraud. That's it. That's their job. Essentially, it's there for national defense, policing, and legal infrastructure necessary for property rights and contract enforcement.
Okay, I get that.
That's all he wanted.
No crime?
No, there'd still be there's still laws. There's still policing.
Okay.
But that's up to like state and local levels. So libertarians are not anarchists. They don't want a big central government, and they definitely don't want it taxing them. They want like communities policing themselves. Coming up with their laws. Where was I? Oh yeah. So that meant cutting the government from education, morality policing, which I agree on there, taxing, and welfare in general. His book caught the eyes of some other very wealthy libertarians, and they all got together to create the Ocean Life Research Foundation. Now, in order to avoid violent revolution, they decided to use their money to establish their own country. Their organization began reaching out to various countries such as the Bahamas, Suriname, Honduras, and others to see about purchasing an island. He thought it would. He figured that's got to be easy. Give people millions of dollars.
Take part of their country. This. Sure.
Yeah. Well, just an island. Just an island. He didn't want a big giant landmass. He just wanted a place where everybody could leave him alone. But he was unable to make any deals. In 1971, Oliver and the rest of his organization decided to pursue the Minerva Reefs near the island of Tonga. So the reefs are technically outside of the borders of Tonga. And for those of you who don't know why I'm talking about reefs, is think about the Florida Keys. The Florida Keys are not your standard landmass islands. Those are sand deposits over like centuries and millennia that on top of like stacks and stacks of old reef. That's how those islands are made. And this one wasn't quite there yet. So what they started doing is they started dredging. They got a dredging vessel, and they started to speed up the process by adding sand to the reef to build an island.
Okay.
They planted their flag on what they called the Republic of Minerva. Between selling 3-acre plots and investors that had no plans to live there but wanted to profit from its creation, they began building the country that could house 30,000 settlers.
That's a lot.
However, it's a lot bigger than what I would expect. But these are land developers. They know that you don't have to just build out; you can build up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, however, the king of Tonga, Taufa Ahoa Tupo IV, which I will refer to as the king of Tonga for the rest of his time.
Oh, come on.
He found out what Oliver and his buddies were doing, and he did not like it.
See, why not?
Though the reef was not part of his country, the people from Tonga and Fiji would use those reefs for seasonal fishing and lobstering. So they're like, okay, it's not ours, but come on, we use it. Kind of like the kid that's like, yeah, I haven't played with that toy in 5 months, but I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Furthermore, in the past, a group of Tongans got shipwrecked on that reef. These Tongans rescued themselves with this daring journey on a thrown together boat that they were able to get all the way back to Tonga. And they managed to do it with only one fatality. So in memory of that, a buoy and a Tongan flag had been placed by the reef in honor of these men. However, some of the people, and as well as the king, kind of was like, that means it's ours now. It's annexed. So the king wanted to know what was up with these rich guys messing with that reef, so he sent some of his folks out there. They reported back that there were foreigners there. Fortunately for Oliver and his group, they were still in the stage of trying to create the island with sand. Otherwise, what happened next would have lost them even more money than they already ended up losing. The Tongan king took a boat to the Minerva Reef along with a group of freed convicts and a brass band. Yeah. The king planted a flag on the island and declared it part of Tonga. The surrounding nations, Australia, New Zealand, Samoa, and others supported the Tongan claim on the new reef island. This put Oliver in the position that he wanted to avoid, fighting to establish his own country. And he still did not want to do that, so Oliver and his crew withdrew their attempt to settle the island.
Oh.
So basically a brass band and a bunch of ex-cons conquered his island before it ever took off. Now, since then, Fiji, who also, like I said earlier, fished and lobstered in those reefs, have contested Tonga's claims on these reefs, and the island that they attempted to create back then, the one that they were jumping on the sand on, it's been reclaimed by the sea. So there's nothing to fight over anymore. It's gone. It's like, guess that worked out for the better. As for Oliver and his buddies, well, you know what they say. If first you don't succeed, try again. However, they still weren't able to buy an island, and their attempt at building an island out of nothing didn't work. Oliver needed to find a new way to achieve his goal. The Abaco Islands, which if I'm probably pronouncing that, it's probably like Abaco or something like that, but I'm going to call them the Abaco Islands, are a group of islands north of the Bahamas. They were considered part of the British colony in the Bahamas. And in 1971, as the Bahamas were making their move to become independent from British rule, the Abaco Islands were petitioning the British Crown to be seceded from the colony of the Bahamas. They never considered themselves part of the Bahamas. Brits just said, nope, you're all the same. And they were trying to use this movement to break free. Britain did not want to deal with that and was busy attempting to disassemble the entirety of their empire. And they're like, I ain't got time for your little scraggly ass islands. No, y'all deal with it once you're out of our hair. I mean, why would they want to add another country to the list of ones that they were guiding to their own little flimsy versions of independence? Don't argue with me about that, Canada and Australia. You have British royalty on your currency and someone in their government holding a significant role within your government. So, flimsy democracy, and your government is essentially the equivalent of a toddler on a leash. Because they have these, I think they're like they're protectorate governors or something like that aren't even voted for by the like Australian citizens. They are appointed by Britain, and they have power. I mean, like there was a big to do in Australia one time where one essentially fired the prime minister. Wow. That the Australians voted in. So yeah, your democracy is flimsy. I mean, I can't really say too much about ours. Ours has been janked with all sorts, but at least we ain't got a king that can sit there and say, this British man is in charge of you. So, haha. Back to the story. In 1973, the Bahamas became independent, and the Abaco independence movement officially began. With this disarray and desire to break free of the newly formed government in the Bahamas, Michael Oliver and his newly formed Phoenix Foundation entered the picture. Because you got this place that's wanting to break away. It's not a long established government. They might be able to get in there. Michael Oliver still had no desire to start a revolution. But if there was a group of people that had a decent shot for a successful revolution with little or no bloodshed, then he was more than happy to put his financial strength behind it.
Okay.
The Abaco Islands seemingly fit that bill near perfectly. The Abaco Islands independence movement's beliefs aligned close with his libertarian beliefs, where investing in their success would allow him to be able to influence, join, and potentially help lead the country to the libertarian utopia that he was wanting to build. Now, typically, if a wealthy citizen is attempting to usurp a government with their funds, it's something the U.S. government wants to know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say.
And not necessarily. Can I talk?
Of course.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right. Now, it's not necessarily so that they can stop it from happening or anything like that. They just want to make sure that whichever American citizen that is trying to steer that country to his own interests aligns with the American government's interests.
Yep, absolutely.
Then, once they decide, we're cool, that lines up with what we want, they'll decide whether or not they want to stop it. In an FBI document from 1974, the government was well aware that Michael and one of his foundation partners, Mitchell Livingston Werble III, were reaching out to former FBI agents and officials to hire them to help determine the feasibility of Abaco independence. The U.S. government decided, they're fine. We're not going to get involved. Let's see how this plays out. With this new effort, Oliver's Association's partners got a little heavier. That guy Warble that I mentioned earlier was the owner of a company called Defense Systems International. Or do you think you know what he does for a living?
I'm guessing make defense systems internationally.
There's another word for it. Oliver officially had himself an international arms dealer on his side.
Oh, okay.
And he wasn't just an international arms dealer. He was also a mercenary.
Oh.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Oliver, that association with this man is what completely thwarted this effort. Warble, like I said, was a mercenary. I mean, hell, war was in his name. He was looking to create an armed insurrection because that's what's most profitable for international arms dealers. He also attempted to recruit other mercenaries and bring them to Abaco. The Abaco citizens had no desire to fight a bloody revolution that's going to destroy, the people and the island that would then render their independence worthless.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point? It's there's like a bunch of one-legged people saying, at least I'm free. Yeah. So the Abaco independence movement lost all its credibility with the citizens. And the following election, they lost every bit of political power that they had. It was just gone. They're like, okay, you're bringing this fool in here that's got all these machine guns trying to arm everybody. We ain't about that life. Y'all move on.
Yeah, carry on, please.
So, once again, Michael Oliver failed to start his own country. But you don't get as rich as he was by being put off by failure. Oliver turned his attention to Espiritu Santo, the largest island of the then called New Hebrides Islands, but now they're known as Vanuatu, which is so funny. I never even heard of that country, but until I was like 19, I used to work at a call center that did long distance billing calls for AT&T.
Yeah.
And one of the billing calls that I'd always get is whenever people would call 1-900 numbers. And some of them, they would bill normally. Others would say, okay, we're not going to charge you anything. But then they would like do this weird thing where they would somehow route the call through Vanuatu, and then they would end up like these $7 a minute phone calls that would go on for an hour. They call me like, I never called anybody, and what's a Vanuatu? I was like, have you ever called the 900 number? No. Do you have any kids that live in your house? My son would never. Okay.
Oh, yes, he would.
Yeah, it was stupid. The New Hebrides Islands were colonized by both the British and the French. And much like the Bahamas before them, they were in the process of decolonization. Initially, the Phoenix Foundation attempted to purchase one of the islands in 1975 using a British lord as a proxy. But they were figured out. They're like, wait a minute, Lord, whoever you are, you're not really going to get this. Are you going to give it to some nut that's going to start his own country? And he's like, maybe. And so they're like, we're not going to sell it to you. So he decided to go back to his Abaco strategy and decided to fund another revolutionary political movement. The Nagriamel political party began in 1960 after a group of tribal chiefs sought to get the return of all European-owned land that was not being used for agriculture. So they weren't too crazy, sitting there saying, no, that's all Europeans, get out of here. They're just like, hey, if you ain't using that to grow shit, we're taking it back and we're going to grow stuff. We're hungry. We want to sell things. Furthermore, they weren't seeking like immediate independence. They weren't really ready to get out from under the wings of Britain and France, because the leaders of that country felt that they were not financially stable enough where they could flourish, and then let alone handle the modernization that would come from, that you need whenever you're an independent country.
Yeah.
You have to be able to have a modern infrastructure, especially if you're going to work with the outside world. A man named Jimmy Stevens was an islander who was brought into the party after he offered to sell guns to the tribal chiefs. They're like, boy, I like your moxie. Get over here, gun boy. I want to have a talk. Come on in. He worked his way up the party and met Michael Oliver in March of 1979, as well as a faction of French colonizers that offered to help fund this new country. In place, they were already there. They were French. They're part of that group. And they wanted to essentially take over the role that France and Britain had, where it's like, I'm your protectorate, I'm your fund, I provide the funds, you give me stuff and let me have my way. They believed if they only seceded Espiritu Santo from the New Hebrides Islands, that they could, just take that one island out of that group and make a libertarian nation with Jimmy Stevens as its leader. The first tactic was political. Fund the party. Get them elected, get them in power, and make the changes that they want with the current system. However, that did not work because the Nagriamel party got their asses beat in the 1979 elections.
It's hard to win elections.
Yeah, it is. And at least they attempted to do it the right way. But this led them down the path that Oliver had been avoiding this past decade: revolution. In May of 1980, using funds provided by Oliver and that French faction of colonists, Stevens took over the local police force, radio station, and the airport of Espiritu Santo. Then, using a constitution provided to him from the Phoenix Foundation, Stevens declared Espiritu Santo as the Republic of Vemerana.
Any idea what the name means?
No. Well, I mean, I know what Espiritu Santo is. It's like Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
But Vemerana, I have no idea. A few short days later, France recognized the New Hebrides Islands as a whole, as an independent country. And a couple days after that, the tribal chiefs of Espiritu Santo, fired back and named the French ambassador that was on Espiritu Santo with them. They named him the king of Vemerana, King Philippe Alano. And then they declared Jimmy Stevens as the prime minister. So what they tried to do is they tried to play political chess. France was like, okay, you got one of your little islands. It's trying to get uppity. New Hebrides, I know we just set you out on your own. We'll help you out. Hey, everyone in the whole world, all those islands are New Hebrides. Don't listen to those people saying that, there's a Republic of Vemerana or whatever. And so what they did is they took the French ambassador, who's part of that French government, made that declaration, and they're like, we now crown you king. And so France can't go in there and be all like, well, we're going to kick his ass because that's one of their own. I mean, it was kind of a smart move, but it wasn't like one that was going to save them on anything. The new Hebridean, I guess that's the way you say it, New Hebridean government that the Nagriamel party could not, get themselves elected into, sought help from the British and the French. And both of them said, no, you're independent now. You got this. You got this. You don't need us anymore. Go out there and take care of this revolution all on your own. Which is exactly what the Nagriamel party kept warning them about. They're like, hey, once they bail on us, we're not going to be able to handle things. And they weren't, because they got one of their islands taken. So the New Hebridean, I don't know. This new government, well, the French approved government started asking some of their neighbors and the other island nations around them for help. And in August of 1980, Papua New Guinea answered the call and deployed the Papua New Guinea Defense Force, and thus began the Coconut War.
I'll say Papua New Guinea has a defense force.
It does. It was a war in a sense that an army showed up. That was the Papua New Guinea Defense Force. That army showed up. The gun-toting Papua New Guinea soldiers arrived to fight people that had bow and arrows, rocks, and slings. Now, fortunately, not a lot of people were killed. But there were some casualties. For the most part, people they'd look at their bow, look at the machine gun, just be like, I surrender. Unfortunately for Jimmy Stevens' son, he was not one of those people. Jimmy Stevens' son was in a car that decided to drive through a military roadblock, and he was shot and killed. So Jimmy Stevens lost his son in the Coconut War. Shortly after that, at the end of August 1980, Jimmy Stevens surrendered. He was arrested and after a trial was sentenced to 14 years in prison. He got out in 1991, so he served 11 years, which, I guess that's okay for a revolution, but his son, he lost his son in the process, and I imagine it sucked for him. So during the trial is when it came out that his revolution was supported by the Phoenix Foundation as well as those French colonists. Now, nothing happened to any of the French people. French government didn't come down on them. No international stuff saying, hey, France, why were you all intermingled in this with your ambassador and all those, colonists that you have over there? Nobody gave France any shit because they're just like, who cares? There's a bunch of little islands out there. But the Phoenix Foundation lost what remaining credibility it had, causing its efforts to make a new country completely fizzle out. Nobody was going to deal with them anymore. No revolutionary groups wanted their money. No governments were going to sell them an island. It was toast.
No, they're batting a big fat 0.
Yeah. So Michael Oliver, like most of us, was not able to achieve his dream of creating a country. He eventually just changed his focus to writing books and doing speaking engagements where he would talk about his libertarian politics. I don't know if it's because one of his plans finally ended up getting people killed, or if it's just he was just discouraged in general. But he really did. He never made any more attempts to build another country.
As far as the latter, what you just said, because his whole moral high ground was never to have bloodshed. And when he finally gave in to have bloodshed, somebody died that was somewhat close to him.
No, it wasn't close to him. No, it was Jimmy Stevens, that kid.
Well, he knows the person.
Michael Oliver didn't lose anybody. No, he didn't lose anybody. I just think he did not. He never wanted a violent fight. I mean, because like one, there is always some contention with that. If you violently take over a government, you're going to have a hard time with other countries wanting to recognize you as a new government.
You did it the wrong way.
America. Yeah. I think is a combination of both, but we won't know because he died in 2024.
If only we did this podcast a year earlier.
And that's going to do it. Once again, I found a topic, though, that ended up getting focused on one story instead of multiple, because he's not the only guy that's done this. And while I was doing my research, his story just took up everything. So if you would like to hear more about crazy people or power-hungry people or whoever that wanted to start their own country, let us know in the comments, and I will whip up a sequel. And hopefully I'll stammer less on that episode. We'll see. So, yeah, that's it. That's the story.
I want to know
Any questions?
I just want to know what the name of the country, what it stood for, and why he named it so weird.
Well, I think Jimmy Stevens was, and his group, the tribal people, are the ones that came up with the Vimarama thing.
At first, I thought you were saying Nirvana backwards, but that's not all right.
All right. Well, join us next time, unless a coup d'etat happens in Jastonia, and it's renamed to Yanistan, and then he gets publicly executed so people know to take his son seriously. But if that doesn't happen, he'll tell us about some things that will make us say, wait, what? Yeah, keep an eye on your son.
Yeah, he's getting big. Him. I don't know if I can take him anymore.
Now, I mean, this is one of those things where you got to make a political choice here. It's like, do you want to make a dad choice or do you want to make
a king choice?
A king choice.
It always comes down to that on those movies and TV shows. There's always a beef between the king and the son.
Yeah. I mean, or just
possible heirs. Yeah, or he's sixth in line. I got to take him out.
That's why, like, dictatorships and monarchy could only last so long. I mean, monarchy was never going to make it in the long run. I mean, there's still a few of them out there, but they're not in like any of the powerhouse countries for a reason. But yeah, just keep an eye on him. He's gonna poison your vodka cranberry or whatever it is that your penis cola.
I hope not. They taste mighty good. I only drink them once a week.
All right, cool. Well,
all right,
that'll do it.
Yep.
Bye.
Later.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Waywut. This show's available on YouTube, GoodPods, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. We love to hear from you. Please comment on what you just listened to, pass along episode ideas, or just talk to us at Waywut Podcast in our Facebook group or on TikTok, Instagram, or X. Again, we really appreciate you joining us. Come back again to hear about some stuff that will make you say, "Wait, what?"